Hi, I'm John.
I'm Andrew, and welcome all you nerdum people out there to the first episode of Nerdborne. This is a spin-off to the JNA Podcast that obviously me and John do, and what we're going to be doing here is basically talking all things nerdum, but mainly sticking to video games. I'm sure me and John we're gonna want to have episodes on this Nerdborne podcast where we talk maybe comic books or anime or even comic book movies, like, etc. We have always been nerds. Guilty as charged. I love being a nerd, and I have so many interest into so many nerd things that we had to do this podcast. um, right now, we're just going to give a brief introduction to what has got us into video games and our video game experience up until now. I'll let John take it away from there.
I just want to actually chase what you said a little bit. Like when we first kind of started talking about doing this podcast, me and Andrew both knew, or talking about doing the JNA podcast, me and Andrew both knew that at some point we were just going to have, one of our nerd outs that didn't get recorded and throw it up on the internet because, hey, we're doing that, in general with the regular podcasts, just, more variety of topics. But, uh, I've been into gaming since, well, I was about knee high to the daddy's throne. The very first system I owned, I was like 5 years old. My parents bought me a regular Nintendo, and I had Mega Man 2. And yeah, that was pretty rough, which will make some of my top five choices down the road make a little bit more sense. Let's just say Daddy likes it hard. But
All right, dude.
yeah, since then, that's it. Started with the NES and then stuck mostly to PlayStation systems. Every year when they were really cheap, I'd go back and get a Nintendo system because, I love me some Zelda and I even uh like Mario and stuff like that, the Nintendo IPs. So yeah, just, been doing this for as long as I've been alive. How about you, man?
Basically the same thing, man. I mean, there is. My dad's even got a picture of sitting down with me playing the Atari when I was like an infant, and I, the very first system I ever remember owning is the Sega Genesis. But I'm fairly certain I had a Nintendo before that. But at the same time, I was so young; it's so hard to remember. But I definitely remember my Sega because I got it for my birthday, and I remember getting it. And ever since then, it's just it would almost be easier to tell you the systems I haven't owned, and that's like the Xbox One X, and that's the end of the list. I mean, I have at one point in time I've had a Dreamcast, Nintendo 64. Oh, the nostalgia of the 64.
Ah, yes.
Um, PS1. I mean, I can't even think of all of them right now, but I'm pretty sure I've owned just about every single system to the point now where I have my PS4 and I have my Switch. Looking to get into a PC soon, so I'm gonna have that as well. So yeah, it's just about the same as you. My entire life, man, it's just been pretty much gaming from start to end.
I'd just like to point
You
out
know.
because I know there's probably going to be some hipsters and some other malcontents. He doesn't mean like the super rare systems like the Saturn or the Amiga
Uh,
or shit like that. We're talking things that were actually good. That's right.
dude, yeah,
I
you.
said that.
I see no lie. Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that too. I mean, obviously you have like your rare systems out there and shit. I mean, get exactly what John said. That get systems that were good. That's double whammy, motherfuckers.
That's
But
also. He's
yeah,
also
we
joining the PC
well,
Master Race.
my ass, dude. I have played PC. Yes, we get it. Great graphics. Yes, we are not gonna bow to you. We are not peasants, motherfuckers. We started you.
No, you didn't. We started you.
Sorry. Well,
Know your
how
history,
about
boy.
how about hold up? How about mainstream?
Yeah. How do
Is
you
that
think any console
is
got
that fair to say?
started? What do you think a gaming console is other than an incredibly specialized computer? Do not speak to
I
me of the Deep Magic Witch. I was there when it was written.
like it better the way I had it in my mind, so I'm just gonna stick with that. I get it. I get it with you master race people. I get the PC's awesome, man. But if the PC was so awesome, you wouldn't have a PS4.
PS4 is a lot cheaper. Like, and there's also a
Well, and they're
guarantee.
exclusive.
There's exclusives, but frankly, not or there's at least the guarantee when it comes to a console that if you buy a game, you will actually be able to play it right out of the box. That's one thing PCs not so much anymore, but they did have a problem with was there was a good chance that you would buy a game and it would make your computer want to fucking die.
Oh, that sounds fucking cheap for a master race.
Hey man, some sacrifices have to be made for quality.
Yeah. I don't know. It claimed to be a master race. That doesn't sound too masterful to me.
Just saying, we're at the forefront. The graphics card
I
they put
also
in the PS4 is what they're or what my computer has now. So
Yeah, but all I know is my PS4 doesn't crash down when I put a game in. Also, I would like to tell I know we got Xbox people out there. When it comes to gaming, there's a bunch of Xbox people. I do not hate on Xbox. I have PS4 because I love their exclusives. The day I can afford it, I will also get an Xbox because I love Halo and I love Xbox too. Just always been a PlayStation guy. I'm not with that console war bullshit. I'm not even with the any console or PC war neither. Gaming's gaming to me. The only gaming I don't accept is mobile gaming. Y'all fucktards can fuck away.
yeah, I mean there are some good mobile titles, but frankly, it's
Ah.
just kind of it's
It's like the hand. It's like the hand job of gaming.
yeah, it is.
Like this shit, yeah,
That's
this
a
shit's
fucking
nice,
way to
but
put it.
there's more out there that I'd rather explore.
I'd rather get a little bit deeper into things.
Also, what me and John have done, it'd be suitable to make a top five list of favorite games or something like that to try to give the listeners an idea of what kind of video games we get into. And I don't know about John, but when I went to go make this list, I thought this list would have been a lot easier than than I fucking set out to when I started rating it. I had a lot of conflicting issues with it. I can see this list changing weekly,
Uh,
at least in the order it's in, at the very least.
Well, here, let's just go ahead and set a baseline. This list is, or these lists are not in any particular order. It's just, that's it. It's shit we absolutely love and we want to talk about it.
Mm. I tried to make mine in order, and I think that's what really gave me the problems. It's just like some games I can't really put above the others, man. Like that's not that I necessarily love one game more than the other one. It's just it's just different. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's kind of like difficult like that. It's like between a wife and a side chick, man. I love you both. Like,
Eh, trouble, trouble.
uh, so let's hear your John. Give me your number five.
My number five is, drum roll, Final Fantasy Tactics.
What?
What?
It's an underrated game. When I
Uh,
talk about Final Fantasy, it doesn't really get mentioned much. I mean,
yeah,
here and there. You
uh,
know,
that's
it's actually been a while since I played it.
It's actually fantastic. When they did the War of the Lions release, I was absolutely ecstatic. Granted, that was, oh God, like 15 years ago. Probably less, probably more, but I don't know. But that's it.
Yeah,
It's the greatest Final Fantasy game that nobody really talks about other than, people who make it a point to talk about it. And
yeah,
it's absolutely fantastic.
it really is. Like I said, it really is an underrated Final Fantasy game. Like, especially when on social media gaming, like of course Final Fantasy's remake 7 remake just came out, so Final Fantasy is starting to become more how would you say more talkative about what's the word I'm looking for?
It's entered the
More
discourse.
Yeah, basically. And it's just become more popular to talk about now, and a lot of people like I even think 15 got a lot of hate, unnecessary hate that didn't really deserve. But when they're talking about it, you always get 7, you always
Mhm.
get 10. And you hardly ever hear anything about tactics. You even hear something about like 6 every now and then, they scattered around in there.
Funny you should mention that.
Oh my gosh, number 4.
I'm just, you'll find out.
All right.
Build
All right.
anticipation.
Well, hey, this actually kind of leads into my number five. When it came to making my number five, like I said, I tried to make this list in order, but like I said, it could change any week. But when I went and made my number five, and initially I was gonna put Final Fantasy VIII on there because
Mhm.
A, it's my first love of the Final Fantasy, and B, I think it is the most underrated Final Fantasy game out there. For some reason, I got a lot of hate. I don't know if because it followed seven. People's expectations were too high or what, but I thought fucking eight was awesome. But when I put more thought into it, I I was like trying to think about it like if I got stranded onto a desert island, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you only get like five video games a day. And
Mm.
of course, I gotta have at least one Final Fantasy in my top five. And I was like, which one would I want to play if I'm stuck in an island? And I ended up coming crashing down to Final Fantasy X. Oh yeah, the Final Fantasy X. I mean, I think it gets gets little bit of hate because Titus was just not that likable of a character. You going from you going from Cloud to Titus. It's just like you're going from like high school to junior to you just went down to like a JV. You know what I mean? Like Titus was just not a likable character, but the gameplay and the story and the top of that, the fucking who doesn't like Blitzball, man?
Well,
Yeah.
believe it or not, Blitzball is actually pretty contentious. There are some people who, absolutely adore it and some people who fucking hate it.
Well, those people that hate it are just wrong. They're just wrong in all kinds of levels, and I feel sorry for the women they have to sleep with. Yeah, they
Oh, we're
can't enjoy
taking
good things.
shots.
Oh, I did
Taking
take a shot. I
shots.
feel. Oh yeah, I can't remember how many hours I put into that fucking blitzball tournament just trying to get Waka's ball. For dude, that doing. How old was I? I think I was 11 or 12 when I played Final Fantasy X, and I think it gave me an aneurysm back
Oh, is that why you're so young
then.
now?
Yeah, that's the reason why sometimes I just like tick goes again.
I guess speaking of a game that I've sunk an inordinate amount of hours into, that actually brings me to Dark Souls, specifically number three.
You
Now,
know what's coming, people. The fucking show's called Nerdborne.
well, yeah, but more or less. I mean, surprise, surprise. Uh, Now, many people will ask, why Dark Souls 3 in specific rather than the original. And don't get me wrong, the original is what it is. How much more fucking praise can somebody on the internet laud upon it? But the reason I like Dark Souls 3 is that it's that nice little mix between Bloodborne's combat and more traditional Souls combat. Um, I like it's just a little bit faster pace. You're a little bit more mobile in Dark Souls 3 compared to Dark Souls 1.
Oh yeah,
I do like the switching it from the charged based spell system into, having magic bar and blue Estus and shit like that. But yeah, that's it. It's a game
I
that I've
agree with.
played several times through. It's a game that, anytime I'm feeling down or, feeling a little bit stressed out or have been captured by Syrian rebels, I pop that in and have a good time.
Hell yeah, man. And it's also so pretty.
Yeah, that too.
Like, yeah, Dark Souls 3 is actually the very first game that I bought when I got a PS4.
Mm,
I was late to get the PS4. I always usually wait for the PS4 to be out a while, but for some reason, I ended up waiting a little bit longer than usual.
mm-hmm,
But I specifically went out and bought Dark Souls 3 because I mean, I go PS4. When I went out and bought a PS4, that was like legit the first game I had to get. It's
mm.
like, yep, picking this motherfucker up.
Think,
About 200 hours later.
yeah.
That actually brings me to my fourth one. My
Mm,
fourth one's actually kind of like off the wall compared to what we just talked about to this point. But my fourth one's Madden, and not
really?
really any particular. Yeah, not particularly any Madden. The kind of like a lot of Maddens are just wash and repeat. I mean, let's face it, it's just what it is. But I've been playing Madden. I don't even know. Got to be
Mm,
saying it since I've been like 15 or 16, and almost every year after I've started playing.
mm.
They got the amount of hours I put into Madden as a series and it's staggering. I couldn't like I said when I was trying to think about it on the desert island concept, I was like I gotta pick Madden, man. It's actually one of my favorite games to like when I'm having a couple drinks and relaxing. I like to hop online and play some people at Madden just so I could talk shit to them. It's fun.
I've never actually gotten into sports games, but hey, I'm not about to sit here and throw shade. Like, is it just because that's it? It's football related and whatnot, or just that's it?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's because it's football. I've always gotten into football since I've been a huge Detroit Lion fan. I love my football, and Madden. I know you don't know. I know anybody that's listening to this that's played in Madden. They're gonna what I'm about to say. They're like, okay, Andrew, why are you saying the most obvious shit? And I'm saying because my friend does not know what a Madden is. Madden, football is basically the team sport of chess, man. Like when I'm going online and I'm playing other people, they make a couple plays, then I
Mm,
could pretty much gather how they're gonna play the rest of the game, and it's just like a giant ass chess match, but just with people instead.
mm.
Yeah, I've
Coincident
always loved Madden.
Coincidentally, chess is also
Oh,
a game simulating war.
I play chess. I play that on my phone.
Hmm.
Ooh, that's right. I said I played a game on my phone.
Well, I mean, hey, it's chess. It's not, like some of that. It's not Raid Shadow Legends, which I don't know if you know about that. They're just literally blasting money all over the place, and from what I've heard, it's not exactly consumer friendly. Granted, I've never played it, never even looked at it, other than people doing advertisements for it. But hey,
Aren't all those games just like pay to play kind of shit?
yeah, like there's a whole model on that, and frankly, I could spend probably the rest of this entire podcast decrying the whole free to play model, but I
Oh,
won't because that's not what we're here for. But I will say to our listeners, if you want someone who is really, or if you want to get some more information on this and listen to someone who is really deep on anti-consumer practices in gaming, Jim Sterling. He is
okay.
that is his career. That is what he does. He's a funny, funny man. He's a sweary Brit. I know there's a bit of a fetish when it comes to those. So yeah, man, just check him out.
I don't.
Uh, so yeah, moving down the list. The third game on my list is in fact the third game in the franchise. It is nothing but, well, I guess to use the war, no, a war parallel. Fuck it. It's
Can I
Devil May
guess?
Cry 3. Let's stop trying to force the
God damn it!
metaphor. It's Devil May Cry 3. Why? Because it is the most broken of all the Devil May Cries. It is the first game where they went, okay, we kind of had this whole, stylish bad boy thing going on in the first one. The second game, we're not going to talk about that. But the third game, they just sort of went, okay, we're Capcom. We make fighting games. What if we just made a fighting game but with one character against a bunch of, enemies. And oh, by the way, let's just completely break open the fighting game formula by letting you cancel out of fucking everything.
that, that is just the game, man. Um, Dante is just such a fucking likable. Dante is like if Ryan Reynolds was a video character, dude. Like he's like Deadpool before Deadpool became so mainstream. Like, oh man, I fucking love Dante.
Yeah, and we won't talk about the remake either, but that's it. They really captured bottle or lightning in a bottle when they developed, that version of Dante. They carried that, and that's been his style for
Yeah.
all the games that came after. Again, remake excluded because we're not going to talk about that. Um, and the thing that I appreciate most perhaps about Devil May Cry 3 is that the combat system is just fucking broken. It's super technical, super deep. Like there are some of the favorite things I've ever actually done when it comes to that game is watching people who have uh, just completely blown the ass out of uh, what Dante can do with that game. Like if y'all have never heard of True Style Tournament, and you've got a fascination with character action games, look that up because it is like these are people who have made this shit their job almost, and it's fantastic.
I have to look into that. I've never heard of that before.
It's dirty what they do to that.
Styles in the game are definitely. I mean, I can't really think of a game before Devil May Cry 3 where I played where it was like that. I don't think it existed, and if it did, I don't know of it. It was the styles in it were like unique, and it had like like you said, with the fighting system, it was just its own, like it's its own thing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They didn't like it pretty much set a tone for a lot of games after it. I mean, God of War being like one of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, if you don't think God of War didn't pay homage to Devil May Cry 3, then you're just like, I've played every God of War and I've played Cry, and like it definitely does. Yeah, that fighting system in that and with the different styles and everything, it was so much fun to get into. Like it's like a relaxing thing, kind of. Now roll into my number three. Now, John, this was coming, dude. I had to put it in there. I put it in there. Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
I had to. It's again, it's my. I like it. I think this game gets way too much fucking hate. Way too much. I even people don't know. I even talked John into fucking playing this game and running
Mm.
with him, so we'd actually give it a try. It's my very first Dark Souls game. I still remember when Dark Souls 3 came out, and I'm just on the PlayStation Network, just zooming through games like to try to find a play. And they had because Dark Souls 3 just came out, they had a sale going on for Dark Souls 2. So I was like, yeah, it's only like $10 or something like that. I'm like, oh, what the hell is that? They ain't shit. Let me give this a try. But 1 month later, the
Mm.
best fucking buy ever.
uh,
uh,
I guess uh, I do actually want to support Andrew here, because I don't think Dark Souls 2 on its own merits stands up to the other entries in the franchise, but uh, as me and him were going through it, I do have to admit, there is actually a lot to love about the game. There is, uh, if you can, the biggest complaint that I have is that, the game kind of feels a bit more like wading through the mud more than like Dark Souls 1, and certainly more than, Dark Souls 1 or 3. That's like riding a nervous cheetah. Uh, but Dark Souls 2, yeah, I admit it doesn't get it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. Don't get me wrong,
oh,
there's a lot wrong with the game, but there's a lot there to love too.
oh yeah, definitely there is. Dark Souls 2 wasn't the first. I'm sure that this is going definitely gonna come up again on the podcast. I mean, this would because obviously it's not only one of my favorite games, but it's my first love of all the Soulsborne series.
Mm.
And I know I definitely going to talk about defending Dark Souls 2 plenty of times in this podcast because I've probably said it to John like 50 times now. so, but they just added some things into it. In a lot of times, I feel like when they make a game and they come out with a sequel, people pretty much want the same exact game, just different story and a little bit of upgrades here and there. And when you change things on people, people tend to get angry about the shit. You know what I mean? And I
Mm.
think it resulted in Dark Souls 2 a lot. So, tier your number two, John.
All right. Now, I guess there was already a little bit of a teaser for that, but Final Fantasy VI. We've gone from 3 to 6, or rather from yeah, I'm just gonna stop trying to torture these metaphors out. I'm sorry, listeners, I'm a hack. But uh Final Fantasy VI, and I realize I'm gonna get some hate from this, but Final Fantasy VI for me is in general the last good Final Fantasy that came out. Now, don't get me wrong, seven's pretty good.
Oh man,
8, I like the story of 8
congratulations!
and 10. Hold it, just like I like all of the ones that came after. They were good games, but games that really kind of captured the original spirit of Final Fantasy from the NES, and, like Final Fantasy 4 on the SNES, shit that really kind of hallmarked the series for me. 6 was the last one where they did that. Uh the anim or not anima, the uh oh fuck, I forget what the summon system in it was great. The combat, was as deep as a turn-based RPG could get until things like Bravely Default came out. Um, the story, there are just so many powerful, impactful moments in it. Uh, and it's really kind of the only Final Fantasy where the good guys lose once. Like, shit goes wrong, and everybody comes back from that, and they all have these, kind of mini redemption arcs, and I'm a
Spoiler.
sucker for a good redemption arc.
So you just basically spent 2 minutes shitting all over my number five.
Well, that's why it's your number five.
Hey man, I remember I ended up playing 10. I think it was because of you way back in the day. It's me to do it. I think it was after I played 10,
Mm,
or maybe before, or maybe after I played 8. I can't really remember. But it has been so long since I played 6. It is like such a fickle memory. That is one thing I do remember standing out is the good guys losing. I
mm-hmm.
definitely remember that because it kind of pissed me off. I think I was even like 11 or 12 at the time, and as soon as I'm sitting there, like, oh, I finished it, and the good guys lose, I'm like, what the fuck?
Mm. And then
uh,
Act Two begins. But that's it. It's just one of those. I haven't seen anything quite like it ever since, you know, the jump to 3D and PlayStation and shit like that. So really, it's just that's it. It's one of those things that it did something so new and impressive in terms of story. Uh,
man, I hopefully you talk people into going back and playing it because you're almost doing it to me right now.
like fucking,
Yeah,
I understand. If
yeah.
you're looking for something,
I still got so much to catch up on, man. I got Final Fantasy VII remake. I got Doom Eternal. I got Resident Evil 3. I am booked up right now. And
uh,
plus, I'm an essential worker, so I don't get that much free time to. Yeah, that's right, you fucking peasants. I'm essential. Which brings me to my number two, which is essential for any gamer that plays video games. Bloodborne.
bum,
Yes,
bum. Roll
that's
credits.
right.
We have a title.
Fucking A, man. Obviously, me and John are huge game. The goddamn podcast is called Nerdborne. It does not take a
Hmm.
rocket scientist to figure that out. I mean, like, what can I really say about this game that has not already been said? People are calling it the best PlayStation exclusive of all time. I mean, from the gameplay to the story to its own unique weapons system, just damn, I love the game.
Yeah, like how many games out there can really, like, truly call themselves console sellers? Like, Bloodborne sold PlayStations purely for Bloodborne. Like, there's not a lot of other games out there that can really claim that.
They're like very few, very few.
And
I mean, you're talking Final Fantasy VII remake, and people had to wait 5 years for this damn thing. People weren't waiting for Bloodborne. It came out and it took over the gaming world by storm.
yeah,
People weren't expecting it to be like that. I was not expecting it to be like. You know
and
what I mean?
there's a certain genius to Bloodborne that I'd like to touch on briefly.
Yeah, man.
One of the fantastic things about it is that after you play Bloodborne, it makes playing the other Dark Souls games easier. Like, not just in the sense of how it handles, but you kind of just you get it. Like, you can play a regular Dark Souls games hiding behind your shield, going "Eh," around every corner. But then when you play Bloodborne and feel like a goddamn god, you just kind of, that's it. You go to the other Souls games and says, "All right, I know you're bullshit. Let's do this. Come on."
I actually to give you to defend what you just said. I've been playing Neo 2 since it came out, along with you, and
Hmm.
on the gaming community on social media, a lot of people would consider Neo 2 pretty hard. And hey, man, I'm right there with them. Neo 2 wasn't exactly easy. I had times where I wanted to bang my head up against the wall, but whatever. Ended up beating it, and I ended up restarting Bloodborne after I beat it, and I got my ass kicked. I don't know why, man. I don't like. I was just so used to the like the shooting with the pistol to
Hmm.
break their guard, to do the versatile attack. I just could not get that down. In the very beginning of Bloodborne, when you come out of the ward
Hmm.
and you go through, and when you turn left to open that gate for the shortcut that the first ladder's at, there's
Yeah.
that big motherfucker. Yeah,
Yeah.
I lost like 1,000 souls right in the get go trying to beat that son of a bitch when I when I restarted the game. I'm like, man, it's been so long, it's so embarrassing that like I'm just getting I'm like, I swear to God, people, I've played this game so much, I'm good at this game.
Dark Soul
It's
or Bloodborne.
Yeah, no, it really does not, man. It is an unforgiving game. But like, eventually, once I got my feet wet again, the game became a lot easier. And like, it's like, but also a problem is too, like, I don't know if you've ever had this problem. It's happened to me particular a lot. It's like when I'm playing a game and I'm just like used to the controls, like in Neo 2, you gotta press R1, right, to
Yeah.
re-get your key. So I'm sitting there playing Bloodborne trying to fight this motherfucker, and like I keep forgetting I have to hit L2 to shoot the pistol, and I'm hitting R1. I'm like, stop it, Andrew.
Yeah, a little bit of bleed over, but one that didn't quite help.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you guys are going to hear talk in this podcast because me and him are both huge fans of it. So expect a lot more of that.
I was gonna say we've already had, many hours of debate concerning the Soulsborne games, uh, and just be prepared. Prepare to die.
Oh,
Yeah, prepare to die. To us talking about that shit so much. Uh,
yeah.
this actually puts me in an interesting predilection because my number one game was actually Bloodborne.
That is awesome. I
That was
love
my
it.
number one. But you know what? I'm gonna be a good podcaster, and I'm gonna swerve right now. Uh, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. That is
Oh,
my
yeah.
replaced number one, and that is yet another game that what more good can you say about it? Like, it's a breath, a fresh air for the Zelda franchise. The survival elements were uh, too light, in my opinion, but at the same time, it wasn't trying to be strictly a survival game. It was meant to be a game about, exploring and fucking, finding cool shit, back like the original Zelda. Check out a cave, find something in there. Uh, and that's.
It was also rewarding too
Mhm.
because like when you did check out that cave, you got a much needed weapon that you needed, a much needed bow, a much needed shield, like or much needed arrows or so on and so forth. Like
Right.
it definitely rewarded you for
And
oh,
part of me would argue that's kind of what Zelda should be about. Um,
yeah.
and that's it. Just like being able to climb everywhere. Just like, as someone who knows a bit of a fuck about game development, uh, making all of the environments so that way you could, crawl all over them like a goddamn ant. That takes a lot of work, and they put in the fucking work. They, that's it. They just made a fantastic title, and uh, like, this might be a future podcast episode, but have like you've played, a good number of all of the Zelda games. Like
Yeah.
this, it doesn't play like any of the other ones. This is kind of changed how Nintendo has to approach Zelda now.
Uh, yeah, kind of. It's got a Ocarina of Time kind of feel to it, but not necessarily exactly like it per se. It's you're definitely right about that. Like it's its own unique Zelda game. Like
Mm,
that's for sure. There are times I was playing it. It did give me that Ocarina of Time, but at the same time, haha, it's been a really long time since I've played that game. Maybe it was more or less my foggy memory and nostalgia or whatever. But
mm,
I've like you said, I've definitely put a lot of time into Breath of the Wild. Even the Switch is just an awesome system because like you could sit there and watch a show and play the Switch on your hand. And oftentimes when I'm doing that, like I'll just pick up the Switch and like continue playing Breath of the Wild.
mm,
I mean, it's just it's a game that it's really easy I mean, not really easy, but it really helps to pass the time. You know what I
mm.
mean? Like, cause it's like you pick up that game and you start playing. Next thing you know, like 5 hours is gone.
Uh,
Bad.
I guess one last thing. Uh, Much like Andrew got me to play Dark Souls 2, uh, I ended up convincing him to get Breath of the Wild, and the reason, or what I told him is that it's better than Ocarina of Time, and he didn't quite believe me.
Yeah, he actually convinced me to buy a whole system.
There you
Yeah, but hey, it really is, dude. And I've since then, obviously, I've played other games on the Switch, and like, well, definitely have future podcasts about the Switch in general because I think it's like a badass little system.
Mm.
But I have been not been disappointed. I mean, I don't know how many hours I put into Breath of the Wild. I've probably like 200 plus hours or whatever. I've not been mad. It's one of the best buys I've done in gaming,
Yeah.
beyond a doubt. Beyond a doubt. Like John said, this is definitely a future podcast episode. Like it, not just I mean Zelda obviously in general, but like Breath of the Wild is definitely gonna be brought up. Just be prepared for everything on our list to be brought up a million times.
So yeah,
Okay,
what's your number one?
okay, to bring me back full circle. This is obviously not gonna be a surprise, but Dark Souls, the original.
Ooh,
No, man, I'm fucking shocked myself. I couldn't believe it. It popped in my mind. I couldn't help but write down.
what a twist!
Gotta. I think the original Dark Souls is fucking masterpieces. Man, I did not play it when it first came out. I'm not one of those people that, like I said, Dark Souls 2 was my first game on the PS3. Oh, and I played it for the PS3. I didn't ever play Demon Souls. I hope that we get a remake or something like that. If not,
Mm.
maybe I'll just buy a system to jump back on it myself. But when they came out with the remaster version, that's when I picked it up. And once I beat the game, okay, like every Soulsborne player, like you beat a game, you go
Mm.
back, you do your NG Plus run, and after I did my NG Plus run, I remember trying picking up another game. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from this for a while, and like literally like 20 minutes into another game, I'm like, okay, never mind, let's put Dark Souls back in. And the next thing I know, I platinum the son of a bitch.
That's I was gonna bring that up if you didn't mention it. He platinumed the original Dark Souls, and if any of you know what that or what that implies, like the only way this dude could be more in love with Dark Souls 1 is if he could fuck it.
Makes you think I didn't.
I'm gonna leave this dead air, that dead air there in the recording because I think it works for comedic timing.
Oh fuck yeah. Pun intended.
Just yeah, but that's it. I remember when they, were announced the remake, and that's it. He was Andrew here was geeked as shit because he's like, dude, I never played the first one, so now I get a new Dark Souls game. It was like, I swear to God, kids on or kids who have just eaten a load of sugar are calmer than him.
But I'm still like that with sometimes game. Um, they're coming out with so many games now, like it's hard to even keep up. But
Mm.
after I finished DS2, I was trying to talk you into doing a Dark Souls run with me, which that is gonna happen. That's definitely happening one day when we get some time.
No.
Man, I love that game. The community on it too, man. Like I think that's like one thing that's not brought up enough with the Soulsborne general is that the community in it is just it's so like kind, man. Like people are like I've had problems when I first started off on Dark Souls 2, and there wasn't that many summon sides down because it was an older game,
Mm.
and that once I did find people to help me out with a boss or whatever, because I was just trying to pick it up. I was one of those bastards that was hiding behind the shield, like you were talking about. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And like I remember when somebody helped me out and like I messaged him on the PlayStation network and I'm like, "Hey man, do you mind helping me out?" He's like, "Dude, where you at? Where you going from here?" And like, man, come on, we'll run this shit. I'm like, "Hell yeah, man."
Hell yeah.
Like I've legit made friends on PlayStation Plus and shit like that. The community's awesome.
Those that suffer together are bind together.
Mm.
It is the suffering that binds us.
Dude, I remember when I first started playing Dark Souls
Mhm.
and I seen the crazy bastard with like no armor on, one
Oh
weapon,
no.
no shield, and and they're just rolling around. And I'm like, y'all are insane. Aren't you afraid you're gonna lose your souls?
It's like,
Now I'm that crazy bastard.
I guess that's actually worth pointing out is that when we did our Dark Souls 2 run, there was no shields involved other than the Wild Blossom shield for a little bit, and that's like I went double or dual wielding with. Eventually, I did what I do end up doing in all Dark Souls games is chucking fireballs, being a pyromancer. Uh, but that's we just kind of fucking charged into that shit, no fear.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it wasn't like we didn't have any challenge like whatsoever. We were both veteran Soulsborne players. I think you were actually doing better than I was, and I was sitting there messing up. I think I smoked too much. I'm just sitting there like all giggling and shit, getting smashed. Right
Get
on.
thrown across the room.
Yeah, I even died on the last boss. I think you managed to beat it yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. Now, granted, this was my first time in there, so I didn't beat him the first time right out. Anybody who knows Dark Souls 2, you know that the final boss has multiple phases, and if you
Well, I
die
would like
on
to
the last
point out
phase, hmm?
that you have to do a bunch of side stuff to get those three phases, and
Oh,
I did
okay.
those. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, you're good. But that's it. I was on the last phase of it, so I went back in and yeah, just took him out.
Um, yeah, man always cracks me up. You ever seen that one video online? A dude's dressed up in the praise your son outfit, and he went to like a Comic Con or something like that, and he
Hmm.
like went to challenge people in a sword fight, and he just starts rolling around. Like a classic.
That
Hey man,
is.
I would like to point out rolling works in its little tumbles here and there.
Hmm. Hey man, you don't kill or you don't fight bosses to death. You dodge roll them to death. Let's be honest here.
All right, let me ask you a question, man.
All right.
What's one game you think just missed the cut?
Hmm. Uh, Devil May Cry 5. I would actually say.
Oh,
Like,
that's an interesting choice.
uh, don't get me or like and this isn't to slight Devil May Cry 5, and I would say the only reason I rank Devil May Cry 3 above it is because one, they just did the Switch version which broke the game open even more, letting you switch styles on the fly like Devil May Cry 4 and beyond, and the shit that you can do with that is just
Yeah.
oh, it's so dirty. But
Really?
yeah, like being able to switch
Huh.
styles at any time when it can or it comes to Devil May Cry 3, and also having access to all of the weapons, there are just some stupid fucking combos that you can do with. Oh,
Talking about for the Switch, right?
yeah.
I have to get that. I was debating on getting that, and like I said, they're just coming out with games so fast anymore, man. It's fucking hard to keep up. I was debating
Yeah.
on getting that.
But that's Devil May Cry 5 is it's a beautifully broken game. I mean the plot, it is what it is. Like, you don't play Devil May Cry games because of the plot, but by the same token, they did a good job with it. Uh, the final boss fight was fucking awesome. I won't say anything, just in case people haven't gotten around to it. And one thing that I really appreciated about the game is the use of music. Like,
Yeah.
the music on its own is not only just good, but the fact that they help sync it up with how combat is going and stuff like that, and how the tracks can just seamlessly go from the whole, oh, I'm just running around, to, oh, it's fighting time. Fucking great.
But
Like.
you're right about that one, man. It was so awesome. They when that music just queued up at a perfect timing, and sometimes it seemed like the fighting like synced up with it.
Hmm.
That was definitely something I noticed about five.
I guess to talk about a game in the same vein, but well, actually done by the guy who did the original Devil May Cry, uh, Platinum Games, shit like Bayonetta, Hero 101. I know that's not the right name, but just anyway, run with it. Uh, Metal Gear Rising. They pay attention to how they use the music, where they just, you know, use it to amp up these complete, crazy Sakuga moments and make you feel like just a total badass. Like, playing
Yeah.
Rising, that first boss fight against the Ray, I'm just kind of sitting here like, okay, yeah, we beat him, and then now all I hear is rules of nature.
Fuck
And
yeah,
it's
dude.
just like, I love this game.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that is fucking spot on with that too. And they especially with those like hack and slashers, man. Like you can't get any better music than that. They're like I'm a huge rap fan, but like rap really don't necessarily go up along with like hack and slashers like hardcore metal. Like it definitely Devil May Cry 5, man. Like it seemed like people waited forever for that game to came out, and then it like came out, and then it just like poof went away so damn quickly. I'm like it don't y'all like the game? I love the game. I thought it was badass. I always intended to go back and play it again, but like I said, with game backlog.
Well,
I thought the story was dope as hell. Like the only thing I didn't like about it is that don't worry, people, we're not gonna give away any spoilers. But the only thing I didn't like about it is like I didn't like how they made Dante look. They like made him look like a Neanderthal to me. Like why was up with the big ass forehead they gave him? Like what the fuck?
excuse me.
Like that dude, like you know he didn't have dreams. He had movies. Like you know what I mean? Like he had more forehead than face. So that's like a 10 head.
I didn't think it was actually.
I know I didn't think it was that bad. I'm obviously over exaggerating. I was just saying that go play Devil May Cry 3, and then go play Devil May Cry 5, and like they don't think they didn't do a good job of like transitioning of making him look like Dante with the new graphics, like not like they did with like God of War from God of War Session or whatever to the new God of War that came out. Like they
Nah.
did a good job with that. They made Kratos look like a badass. Like don't get me, Dante's personality was spot on in the game. Like
Mm,
that's definitely Dante. Like there was no fighting that one. That was
yeah.
definitely him. But like it just didn't look like him to me. That was the only thing that really bugged about it
Hmm.
for some reason. I tell you one thing, one game that definitely missed my cut, but it's just like barely. I mean, obviously it was the Final Fantasy VIII, like I talked about, but another one was Metal Gear Solid 4. That
Ah.
just missed it for me. Yeah. But it was close. Like I put some like consider. It might, like I said, it could even change. We could do this podcast next week, and I'm gonna be like, you know what? I may remade my list. I just want people to put Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5. Some shit, but it was an awesome ass game, man. I love that game.
uh,
It was man, it gave us like a next step up in gaming for me. I never played 3. I hear fantastic things about 3. I don't know why. For some reason, just that part of my life, for some reason, I skipped 3, the Snake Eater.
mm,
But I remember the last Metal Gear Solid I played was number 2 for the PS2. And I remember getting Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PS3. And I'm like, I wonder how they're going to make the transition because it's like every game's like open world now and like putting all this thought into it. I'm like, it's probably going to be garbage. And like, dude, probably like 120 hours later, I'm like, this fucking game is awesome.
now, it's interesting because believe it or not, Metal Gear Solid 4 gets a lot of hate.
What?
A lot of people complain about, how the story is just trying to go back and explain things that happened in the previous three games. Some people complain that, the gameplay has gone too shootery, not stealthy enough, which, I mean, is an argument I don't understand. I'm just saying it's out there. Um,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
like,
I'm I feel attacked. I feel triggered, right? I generally feel triggered. This is what mid liberals must feel like all the time.
ooh, throwing shade. Yeah, we're not gonna. There's not a lot of punch pulling here. This is, the sideshows. So there's gonna be a little more heat brought. But yeah, like there's check on YouTube, man. There's like complete fucking college dissertations on, why Metal Gear Solid 4
What?
is the worst game. And it,
I don't want to check on YouTube and I want to look at that stuff because I can't go out starting fights. I got a social distance. That was
uh,
unbelievable, man. Okay, first of all, the game was wrapping up a story. I mean, that's only logical that you're gonna go back and talk about things like Final Fantasy. I mean, the duh, I'm an idiot. Metal Gear Solid's always been like a really in-depth storytelling game.
mhm,
In like that's just like an obvious thing. If you're wrapping up I mean, Snake's story. I mean, you're gonna have to talk about the past. I mean, you wouldn't be fucking stupid not to
it's
stealth, like learn how to fucking play the game. I mean, don't be a retard. I mean, it's not that complicated to get stealth in that game.
It's easy.
Beat that game playing stealth. The first time around I played it, man. You guys are crazy. I loved it. I thought the storyline was dope as hell, man. The storyline really synced me into it. And like the new gadgets and everything they put into the game, I'm like, man, it's like every single time I turned around the corner, there was something more into the game that I loved.
Right. Uh,
You
I'm
know?
a, mm, nah, man. Like I'm in the same boat. I've heard the arguments of why Metal Gear Solid is bad, or Metal Gear Solid 4 is, a bad entry into the series. And they bring up points that I do have to agree with. Uh, there are a
But
couple of things that are just sort of like batshit insane because, Kojima's batshit insane. But
that's why
at
we
the,
love them.
yeah, that's it. At the same time, uh, there are just so many things about the game that there was obvious like Kojima didn't want to make it. He's actually said as much. But at the same time, the man still put an incredible amount of work and effort, and the team that development uh, put in, an incredible amount of work and effort. And it's a good game, man. It's just a good game. If you're one of those Metal Gear Solid 4 haters, it's a good game. Just play it.
Yeah, like I don't understand the hate. I didn't even know this, to be honest. I mean, Metal Gear Solid for some odd reason is not really a like that much of a discussed game. Social media pages that I have, but I would have never guessed that game received hate. If anything, I would have thought that game got praised as one of the best ones. Huh? Me
Oh,
away right there.
you know how it is. There'll be somebody out there just because, it stinks like garbage instead of shit.
Yeah. Well, people are probably listening to this right now, like this Andrew guy likes Dark Souls 2 and Metal Gear Solid 4. What the fuck is wrong with him?
Hey man, I'm in the same boat with you. Like I've actually thought about, just taking another good run at Dark Souls 2 cuz that's it. There is something to love there, and at the end of the day, it's a Dark Souls game. Like
Yeah.
come on. The podcast is called fucking Nerdborne.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be obvious. So let me know if you want to do, if you end up doing that, man. I wouldn't mind doing a faith run on that game just for shits and giggles. They completely nerfed the faith build on it, but still, man, like I've said it once, I'm gonna say it a million times. Who does not like throwing lightning bolts? It's like, uh, maybe it's like the Greek mythology, the thing that I just fucking feel like Zeus just like here, take a lightning bolt to the face, bitch.
Hold this thunder.
Yes, hold that fucking thunder. That sounded so fucking wrong. That thunder. Now
Uh
we see the lightning. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, dude. Anybody that's gonna listen to JNA, they're gonna be like, "Hey, these guys are pretty like self-control," and they're gonna jump on here, and we're gonna be like, "Lightning come shot."
oh,
The money shot, baby. I hope my
there's
grandparents don't listen.
this and uh
Oh Jesus. It's gonna be like that, Andrew. Such a terrible influence. Never talked about lightning come shots before this. Let me ask you this. If we're talking about like whatever, like video games list and shit like that, what do you feel
hmm,
is possibly the most underrated video game you've ever played?
most underrated video game of that I've played. Um, okay, now this is we have reached peak just obscurity. Back on the PlayStation 1, there was a game called Tai Wrath of the Tiger. And for its time, I genuinely think it was one of the best games ever made for the PlayStation.
I have never even heard of it.
It it
What's the game about?
initially,
Like, let
huh?
people know what it is. Let me know what it is.
All right, in Wrath of the Tiger, you play the titular the tiger, um, and it's set in your, traditional fantasy Chinese setting. There's kung fu, there's fighting animals, there's throwing or chucking chi blasts and shit like that. It's just it's a super simple narrative of, evil dude killed your dad. You go and seek revenge. You go and learn all of these different styles from, all of the classic kung fu animals. So, there's a mantis, a crane, of course, tiger. Um, all of these also give you, like different movement abilities, like learning the crane style lets you glide. Oh, monkey. Learning the monkey style lets you just like fucking ping pong off of enemies. Uh, the combat is pretty or deep actually for just being, a top-down beat 'em up. Fucking the or the movement abilities give it a kind of a Metroidvania feel where you'll play through some levels and you'll see some alternate routes that you can't get to, and then you come back after you get like the crane glide or the monkey bounce or the snake charge, and just like it's one of those kind of just the thing I love about it, and okay, or the thing I
Let
love
me ask
about it
you.
is that it is a simple game done as well as a simple game could be. Like the people who made it obviously gave a fuck, and even if they were just putting something together that didn't have the greatest budget, there was actual love and care that went into the game.
What's the gameplay like? What's the style of the gameplay?
Um, Kind of like Diablo, uh, in the sense of, it's like a top-down screen. You move your character or you move your character around. There are hordes of enemies to fight. It's not quite as, swarms of enemies as Diablo, but I'm kind of reaching like, okay, if you took, say, like Dark Souls and pulled the camera way the fuck back out and got rid of the stamina bar, it kind of plays like that.
Oh, okay.
And
That sounds
there's
interesting.
some fighting game elements to it, like you can cancel moves with other moves and stuff like that. I guess actually a better comparison would be if you took Devil May Cry and pulled the camera way the fuck back out.
Uh, okay, I can kind of get a picture of it. Well, I'll definitely have to look that up. I mean, PS1 so long ago, I highly doubt that. Like, that's one of those ones that going back and playing it is just kind of like nail
Mhm.
grinding, you know? Like, I went back and played Final Fantasy, the original, like not too long ago. I want to say maybe about a year ago or
Mhm.
so, somewhere around there. And I'm like, man, I do not remember this looking this terrible. I'm like, maybe it was my kid, my imagination that made it look so awesome in my mind. It was the same thing with they came out with Final Fantasy VIII remastered
Mhm.
not too long ago, and well, of course I had to pick that up and like 100% that. But like I thought the same thing. Even when it was remastered, I'm like, man, this looks so much better when I was a kid. We've come such a long way.
I think it's interesting you put it like that because that's one thing I was going to mention is isn't it amazing how, how far graphics have come? Like we went literally not even, 20, 30 years ago using, just little itty bitty pixel 8-bit or sprite characters. And now we've got, photorealistic games at 60 frames per second. That's fucking nuts.
Like I've just seen a meme recently on Facebook between
Hmm.
like when Final Fantasy VII came out in '97, and it's showing obviously the remake, and it's just like, damn, like just in my lifetime I've seen that. Now I'm trying to like extrapolate that to like, fuck, what's it gonna be like 20 years from now, man? Like, is it gonna be like Ready Player One? Like, you just put on some gloves and like some sunglasses, you dive in and like do a bunch of others. Oh man, that would be so like my wet dream.
VR gaming. I do think it is actually uh, kind of the direction that it's gaming is going to be heading, but at the same time, there are just too many technical limitations to really embrace it.
And I'm sure that if you talk to gamers back in '97, they would have said the same thing about the graphics now. Like, we seem to be making leaps and bounds when it comes to technology and gaming. And
Mhm.
gaming is just, it seems like every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I mean, esports is the fastest growing sport in the entire world, man. You got kids out there making $16 million off of tournaments and shit, just like Jesus.
Yeah.
It's turning to the, it's just the bigger and bigger it becomes and the more money they get synced into it, like the more bigger leaps they keep making, man. I mean, I know you haven't played it yet, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but the Final Fantasy VII remake is just so fucking pretty. It's just like, oh my god, dude! Like, oh, like the beginning of it is just like a punch of nostalgia right into your grill. But man,
Mm.
did they do just like I'm sitting there playing it, and my girl is like, that guy looks like a fucking real person. She's like, that really looks like better than a movie. It's like, are you playing a movie? I'm like, no, it's a game. So definitely making leaps and bounds with that graphics.
Square Enix has always been kind of the captain when it comes to, just
Yeah.
sheer graphic quality. Like you mentioned, how pretty it is. Now, uh, I know you haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3, or did you? Did you play Kingdom Hearts 3?
Oh hell yeah, dude.
Okay. Well, like, okay, say what you will about the game, but I think something that we can all just agree on without too much contention is that the game is fucking gorgeous.
Oh yeah. I think that game got too much hate, unnecessary hate. I don't know. People are just have hard to make happy sometimes. They just don't accept things for what they are. I'm sure that like we could sit here and poke a bunch of holes into it, but I don't know. I thought the game was good. I didn't think it was that bad. But
Uh,
I'm also not like a very huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I mean, I like them, but at the same time, like I wouldn't even put Kingdom Hearts maybe not even my top 20. Like it's like I like the game. I'm not the ease up people. Don't grab the pitchforks. Don't light me on fire. I like Kingdom Hearts. I'm just not that huge of a fan. I just
well, you know what, man? Different strokes, different folks. I am crazy into Kingdom Hearts, and frankly, Kingdom Hearts 2 was one of those games that didn't quite make the list, but frankly, just like you, ask me next week and it'll be probably in the top fucking three. Uh,
it
but
was a great game.
yeah, like I guess to kind of put things in perspective, Kingdom Hearts 3 is in the same boat as Metal Gear Solid 4. Most people think that, it's an awesome game, but then you get some of us, the super nerds who, you know, literally remember the course of the entire games. Like,
Um,
a
those
little bit,
that again it blows me away. I didn't even know King.
not Kingdom Hearts
I
2,
thought
Kingdom Hearts 3.
okay, my bad. I thought you were referring to two.
No, 2 is pretty much universally loved.
Yeah, I mean, like even by me, dude. Like I said, I'm not a bit huge as a Kingdom Hearts fan, but fuck it, two is an awesome game.
Mm.
I don't know. I thought, look, dude, I thought three was good. The the battle system they did it well. I thought adjusting it between the PS3 and the PS4. I don't know. Maybe it was just because it was like kind of like the same exact thing. I think maybe it'll bug people. They were expecting something bigger. I don't know. I will say that like what is it? Like, it's not necessarily like called summons, but what the hell is that thing where you like someone like things pop up to help you like buy a giant ass pirate ship and you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the attractions. I believe that is actually what
Yeah.
they're called. But yeah,
Okay.
like,
Yeah. Those
the
games
fucking
those kind of made the game a little bit easy.
yeah. Uh,
Oh, like
to be completely honest, uh, Kingdom Hearts 3, I didn't really like it at all. Um,
what
and
about it bugged you?
huh?
What about it bugged you?
Uh, my dude, that is a whole fucking podcast in of itself. Like, to
All
be
right. All right.
legit,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
like, I have many complaints about that game, but that's it. The game is very pretty. Like, there is just, we can argue all day about the rest of the game, but I will not accept anything other than the game looks absolutely just gorgeous.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Hey, like I'll just mention one of the games that I feel is tr- like majorly overrated, dude.
Overrated
Yeah,
or underrated?
oh, my bad. Yeah, you're right. My bad. I'm mixing up my words here. Yeah, major I feel is underrated is shut your face. Is Assassin's Creed 3. That game, like when it comes to Assassin's Creed, obviously it's like a giant ass series, and a lot of people tend to point to two or Brotherhood or Revelations. Teach their own. Teach their own. I love all those games I just listed. They're fucking awesome. They've soaked me right into Assassin's Creed. But for some reason, three got a lot of hate, man. And I didn't like really never understood that. And I think it got a lot of hate in America is how bitchy it made the forefathers look. But I didn't really care because I didn't like the bastards anyways. So I don't know. I thought three was like when I first picked up Assassin's Creed 3, dude. Like I could not put that game down when I first started playing it. That game was just so awesome. That not only did it like not only were the graphics just awesome, but who doesn't want to be a Native American with a tomahawk scalping motherfuckers that taking your land? Like seriously, man. Why are you gonna hate on that? They
Oh,
steal the Native Americans' land and they make a game about the Native Americans and you judge the damn game. You white people suck. You reflect in the sun. I mildly do. Got a
uh,
lot of Native American.
well, yeah, that's true. Uh, I guess on that point though, I think after the series high that was Assassin's Creed 2, like let's just the Ezio saga, let's just call it, was a fucking masterpiece.
Oh
I
yeah.
think uh, like you mentioned earlier, that people didn't like it as much because it wasn't the same, but a little bit more. Like, there's a pretty drastic difference, I think, in the gameplay between Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed 3, and I think that might have been off-putting the same way it was for Dark Souls to Dark Souls 2.
I don't know. People just fucking accept things for what. I mean, I don't know, man. There's things in three like in three you have where you can counter two people at the same time and like the little kill mode that goes into that. It's just dope, dude. I thought the game was dope as hell. I remember playing it, beating it, and like playing it, beating it again because there was like so much to do in it. And coming out like I don't know, like a year or two later, or whatever, like hearing people talk about it, like yeah, I was just kind of disappointed in three. I'm like, what? The hell is wrong with you? What the hell were you disappointed about? That game was awesome, man. I like the storyline. I don't. I like the storyline. A lot of people seem to bitch about how they killed off Desmond. Like, how long did you want this bitch to last? Like, he's like, then like, what was it? They got Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Revelations, Brotherhood, and then 3. I mean, the Desmond's alive through 5 of them dodging bullets. He's going to get caught by one of them. You know what I mean? I think he sacrificed. I thought that was cool. He sacrificed himself to help people survive and everything. I thought that.
Definitely your traditional heroes ending, and yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I don't think I have my niggles, my tiny little complaints about Assassin's Creed 3, but frankly, that's it. I thought they did a fine job with it, and I don't like it better than, the Ezio games, but by the same token, they had to move on.
Didn't you hate Assassin's Creed at one point in time?
Hate is a strong word. Like, I played Assassin's Creed 1 and I didn't really enjoy it because it was, very repetitive. There was nothing really to help break up the gameplay loop. Uh, if you hadn't talked me into trying out Assassin's Creed 2, I probably wouldn't have, and that's another game that I'm glad that you did talk me into playing. Um, but like the Assassin's Creeds that came after that, it was a little bit more of, same shit, different anus. So, like, I played maybe, uh, say 5 hours of Odyssey, and it's just sort of like, okay, I wanted to play Assassin's Creed, not a hack and slash RPG.
Uh, I mean, I still could not finish Odyssey. I keep getting like right towards the end, and I just like lose interest. Not my major complaint with that is just what you said, man. It's like the gameplay is fun in itself. It is.
Mm,
I. It's great. They should have called it something different. Same thing with Origins. They should have called it something different than Assassin's Creed. That's not Assassin's Creed. Like I don't know. Maybe they need to like go play Secure or something to learn like how to do stealth games again or something like that because that was one of the great things about Assassin's Creed was like stealth, but now they've made it to where it's more fun. I don't know. It's just weird. It seems like it's turning into a combat RPG.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not only that, like we're just talking about the gameplay. I could spend a whole entire podcast just talking about the fucking storyline. Like, what the fuck you guys do after three?
Ooh.
What was seriously going through your head? Like, don't get me wrong, Black Flag was fun gameplay,
Mm.
but that storyline sucked. Like, it did not explain anything that happened, and it did not do shit. Like, I was so disappointed in that storyline.
Hmm. And I didn't play that one because that's it. Three left me, I guess, in a little bit of uh, a little bit of ambivalent for the rest of Assassin's Creed. And every year they came out with a new one, and it was just sort of like, okay, you are less about stealthily stabbing people uh,
Yeah.
with each iteration. Like part of the appeal of Assassin's Creed was that it was a stealth game, and I would like to just say that I really think that is a genre that is underutilized right now. Like we'll never see another Metal Gear game. Death Stranding is not a stealth game. Um, there's not a lot, games have stealth elements, but we don't really have a game about stealth anymore.
That's Sekiro, dude.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, Sekiro.
That that's definitely probably a game that's definitely gonna be brought up into the future, man. Sekiro was like a I don't want to say it's underrated because it was like a pretty big hit when it originally came out, even though it fizzled away pretty quickly. But
Mm,
Sekiro was an awesome stealth game. Um, I love the stealth in Sekiro, man. But I was one of those people that like it's because it's a From Software game. I think a lot of people were going in expecting a Soulsborne game. I was
right.
not. I seen the gameplay. I wasn't expecting a Souls, but I went into it completely open minded. I love Sekiro. I thought it was dope as hell.
And like I didn't end up really kind of getting into Sekiro, but and me and Andrew have talked about this before. This is really kind of it's a me, not the game problem. Uh, like it's obviously nothing short of brilliant. Like what I did play through was it was great. That's it. Well put together, so on and so forth. But just something about the combat really, it didn't speak to me. And I don't know if that was because I was expecting a Souls game or if just something did for in it didn't jive for me. But I mean, it is what it is, man.
Oh, this
Uh,
will be talked about in the future. That's for damn sure.
well, there you go. And speaking of the future, it's about time that we wrap this one up here. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Andrew, for coming up with the idea for doing this little sideshow. You guys might not know it, but he was the reason we started doing the JNA podcast, and he's a little bit of the creative mind behind it, if I'm being honest. But I want to say, hey, again, thanks for listening. Please drop us a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know what your top five games are. And maybe future suggestions for games we talk about and stuff like that. We're still pretty small, so we want to definitely engage with our and grow the community. But yeah, I'm just gonna say thank you again for listening. We hope you enjoyed, and stay nerdy, folks.
Kind to each other.
Be kind to each other. See, he caught it.